So 4 minutes ago, Triumph unveiled this, the highly anticipated, and I have to say rather tasty looking 800 variant of their popular Trident 660, which I owned back in 2021. Now, I think it's fair to say that many of us choose a bike on looks first and then kind of work our way back from there. But in this naked roadster category, specs are everything. So let's jump straight in with those while you're looking at the pics. 115 horsepower, like in the Tiger Sport 800, no surprise there, but lighter of course at just 198 kilos wet, and yours for a very competitive £9,195. That's about £1,000 less than the Yamaha MT-09 and only 100 more than every manufacturer's thorn in the side Hornet 1000. The Trident is down on power, but I think it looks way nicer than either of these two Japanese bikes. At the time of editing this video, I don't have the confirmed euro or dollar prices, but at the current exchange rate, 9195 is roughly 10,600 euros. Tempting. Anyway, looking through Triumph's press release, we get three colour options: this rather tasty red, black, which I assume is going to be the base bike, or ash grey. And of course we get the same 798cc triple engine producing 115 PS at 10,750 RPM and 84 Newton meters of torque at 8,500. That's what we saw a year ago in the Tiger Sport 800, and this engine is a real peach. There's also apparently a redesigned induction system for a richer intake growl. Now, I don't know if that means further improved relative to the Tiger Sport 800 or if it's just marketing blur, but anyway, the engine does sound, or did sound, very good when I tested the Tiger Sport. This new Trident weighs in at 198 kilos wet and features a lightweight tubular steel frame with adjustable shower suspension, 41mm upside down big piston forks, separate function, compression and rebound adjustable, so all very similar to the Tiger, and a rear monoshock with preload and rebound adjustment. Now, I always felt the rear shock was the weak point of the Trident 660 when I owned one, but I assume this Trident 800 will be getting the slightly better setup that we saw on the Tiger Sport. Seat height 810mm, but I can't find anything in the press release about a low seat option. Triumph do offer one for the Tiger Sport 800, but not for the Trident 660, so whether we'll see one on this Trident 800 is a bit up in the air at the moment. Braking comes courtesy of twin 310mm discs with Triumph branded radial 4-piston calipers and braided steel lines, something the Hornet 1000 does not have, and having tested the brakes on the Tiger Sport, I can confirm they are really very good. Other rider aids include lean sensitive ABS and traction control, all operated by an IMU, 3 riding modes, road, sport and rain, 6-speed gearbox with up and down quick shifter, which, as with all Triumph models at the moment, is absolutely sublime, and fairly basic on-off cruise control, but they all come as standard. Pretty much identical setup to the Tiger Sport then, including, unfortunately, that slightly dodgy 3.5-inch colour TFT display that we first saw 5 years ago on the 660, and which Triumph seems to be relying on more and more at the moment. There's nothing wrong with it per se. It's very legible and gives access to navigation, calls and music if you're into that kind of thing when you're riding. It's just that the overall design is a bit of a letdown, and that's not just my opinion. I get a lot of comments from you bemoaning the design of Triumph's dashes at the moment. I mean, look at the dash on the new KTM 990 RCR, for example. They've had a rough year financially, but have still managed to bring us this touch-sensitive, widescreen dash with integrated Google Maps style navigation. Now, you could argue that the Trident 800 is a lot cheaper than this RC, and that's true, but Triumph, you're also using this base dash on premium bikes like the €18,000 Speed Twin 1200 RS. And compounding the problem by offsetting the clock to the left, you need to get this dash thing sorted quick. Anyway, dash rant over, back to the good bits of the new Trident 800. All lighting is LED with a DRL equipped headlight and self-cancelling indicators, 14-litre tank, gold finished aluminium wheels. I really like those. And it's available, as I said, in ash grey, Diablo red, Carnival red on graphite, or jet black. 2-year unlimited mileage warranty, 10,000 miles or 16,000 kilometre service intervals, and as I said, price from 9,195 in the UK, very competitive. That should be roughly around 10,005, 10,006 in Europe, arriving in dealerships March 2026. So, my take for what it's worth, well, the Trident 660 I ordered sight unseen 5 years ago was a decent bike, really only let down by its lazy rear shock and maybe a bit of top-end grunt. Then 6 months ago I rode the Tiger Sport 800, of which this Trident is basically a naked version, and I loved it, sure. There were a few signs of money saving, like the aforementioned dash or the basic seat, but Triumph have spent the money where they needed to. Good brakes, decent suspension, and that 798cc engine is a peach. And I imagine this Trident, with around 15 kilos less than the Tiger, will be a real hoot to ride. That said, I hope Triumph will one day give us an RS version with some real top-end suspension. I'd certainly be interested in buying one if they did. I doubt they will though, unless all this signals the beginning of the end for the Street Triple. Similar engine, similar power, similar price. It is more race focused, of course, but is that what people want nowadays? I have a friend here who bought a new Street Triple about a year ago. He kept it 3 or 4 months and then chopped it in for the Multistrada V4 that he let me test in about May. As he said at the time, the Street Triple is fantastic when you're in the mood, but tiring on longer rides. And I agree, I sold my 2017 Triple RS for that very reason. And that's where this Trident could clean up. With that engine, it should be really fun to ride, but not so hardcore that you feel the need to take a break every half an hour. What about the looks? Well, of course I haven't seen it in person, but going on these images, it looks a lot like my 660, but with 10% more beef. Triumph have certainly gone for a sporty stance, and I think that was a good call. I've never been a huge fan of splash guard mounted number plates that we also see on the Rocket, but no doubt traditional underseat mounts are or will soon be available. I really like the red and the ash grey paint schemes, although I think maybe Triumph have just invested in a new sticker machine because there are too many decals for my tastes and it all looks a bit too busy. If you really feel the need to tell everyone that you're riding an 800, then maybe just tell them once on each side of the bike. On the belly pan, for example, do we really need a second 800 on the side of the radiator? I'd be looking to remove some of these to make it look a bit cleaner, like the black version, which, as I said, I assume is going to be the base bike. You'll probably have to pay a couple of hundred extra for the red or the ash grey. The fly screen, for example, as you can see here, it's too busy, but it's all going to depend on whether the decals have been clear coated over. I'm pretty sure this 800 on the radiator cowl will come off easily though. What's it going to be like to ride? Well, obviously nobody's tried it yet, but extrapolating from the Trident 660 that I had for 6 months and the Tiger Sport 800 that I've tested extensively, I reckon it's going to be a real blast. Plenty of mid-range and top-end grunt, and the intoxicating induction roar common to all Triumph's triples. The 660 already has a punchy engine and great handling 95% of the time, and it's only really when you push on that the slightly budget rear shock begins to reveal its weaknesses, but the 800 should at least partially remedy this with the more premium shock from the Tiger Sport. In terms of reliability, in online user groups that I lurk in for the purposes of these reviews, I've seen the Tiger Sport 800 criticised by some owners for a couple of issues like the idle stepper motor fault, overheating under the seat, oil leaks, but I think these are early adopter problems and I'm quietly confident Triumph will have addressed these now. Apart from that, I found the suspension on the Tiger Sport 800 very comfortable, yet effective when pushing on in the bends. The brakes are very strong and the seat, despite being quite basic, is very comfortable. It is a little bit short for taller riders like me, 6'2", 1m87 m, and there isn't much space for a pillion. Anyway, the arrival of the Trident 800 does raise a few questions. I've already covered the first and perhaps most obvious one, what's going to happen to the Street Triple, but it also leaves me wondering if they're going to give us a Daytona 800 with power boosted to say 120, 125 horsepower. Will the slow-selling Daytona 660 be cancelled? How does the Trident sit in relation to what could be EICMA's star exhibit, the Honda V3? Now, I don't know if this is going to sit in the 115, 120 horsepower category, or maybe it'll be a 180 horsepower super naked. I've seen rumours of 150 horsepower, but I think that would cannibalise sales of the Hornet 1000. So my bet would be on 120 horsepower, but I guess we'll just have to wait until next week, November the 4th at EICMA in Milan. There's the new Ducati Monster V2 unveiled just a couple of days ago, but that's a couple of £1,000 more than the Trident, and it will be more costly to run. There's also the, in my opinion, better looking Street Fighter, and sorry Ducati, but when you're calling a bike a monster, I'm not sure 111 horsepower is really enough. Then there are a few old favourites like the Yamaha MT-09 with its fabulous 117 horsepower CP3 engine, but some might say it's getting a little bit long in the tooth, and of course you really have to like blue wheels. But if this Trident is as good as I think it almost certainly will be, I may even be tempted to chop in my Tiger 900 for it. I do fear, however, that like the Trident 660, the 800 may well prove a bit too compact for me, and of course what I'm really hanging on for is a Tiger Sport 1200. On that subject, Triumph, if you're watching, please give us the full fat 180 horsepower engine from the Speed Triple. Don't go watering it down in the name of better low down torque, more relaxed cruising, or enhanced fuel economy, because that's not the priority here. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you like the look of this Trident 800. Would you be tempted to buy one? Do you think I should buy one to replace my Tiger 900? And as always, thanks for watching.